All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the delay. It was just, like I said in the chat, a couple audio issues. But should be good to go now. So, excuse me, a few administrative things at the top here. So I'm going to try and run this one a little bit differently than we've done the live streams in the past. And the basic difference will be I'll go through each stage and check the chat at the end of each stage before moving on and answer any questions about that given stage. And then at the end, I'll hang around for as long as you guys have questions, either about this match or about anything in general. Might as well, while I've got you here, do what I can to help. So we will get started with stage 1 here. Just a note, this stage, I only have the hat cam footage from this one, but no big deal. Wasn't that impressive to watch third person anyway. Okay, so a couple things happened here. One is that, in general, my style right now. Style, is that the right? I don't know if that's the right word, but we'll go with it for now. My tendency right now is to try to avoid running to a spot, setting up hard, and shooting from there, and sort of try and think less in discrete positions and think more in terms of shooting targets from wherever I need to be and only getting as stable as I need to be for that individual target. And so I think on this first stage, I basically did something that really worked out. On stage 3, you'll see I did basically the same thing, and that stage I think rewarded it a little bit more. But here, especially on this first set of targets, as you can see here, I actually could have come in, set up somewhat wide, and seen all 6 of these shots. And in retrospect, that would have been the better strategy, simply because I ended up being too slow and dropping too many points rolling through here. I'll replay this section in just a minute, but you can tell that I'm sort of shooting even on the paper, which is not very far paper. I think this one might be 10 yards, this one might be 15. I'm shooting individual shots because I'm having to wait for the front sight to recover. Part of that is just not gripping the gun hard enough. Since the last match I shot, I have dry fired a grand total of twice, which is not, that's not going to get me where I want to go with my current level of participation. But it is what it is. So really emphasizing gripping the gun hard to return the gun straight down instead of just aiming shots individually is a weakness for me. But either way, by sort of trying to stay low and roll through this position, I think I ended up being slower than if I had just not run hard and set up hard, but if I just sort of eased into this position, say on this outside paper target, shot both poppers flat-footed and then rolled out on the other paper, possibly, might have worked. But like I say, as it was, trying to sort of stay low and shoot on the move, just the way these targets presented ended up not being a very good, it didn't work out very well for that strategy. And it just ended up being slower than it could have been. I'll show you that. So you can see I'm kind of, like I said, watch for shooting individual shots. Pop, pop, instead of... Yeah, actually wasn't as bad as I remember. But it felt like I was having to wait a lot on those sights, just because they were... they weren't as stable as they could have been. Whereas if I had actually just come to a stop in the middle there, and it was also just waiting on the poppers for a while. But either way, what the 2 things that really ruined this stage were just here in the middle section. Honestly, I don't know what was going on when I yanked the mic on this wide open target. I think looking at the dirt splash, it went off to the right side, which to me just tells me it was probably just my foot landed as I was moving. But yeah, not really sure. And then there, that was the real killer. Is I was thinking more about that and about getting the gun up and shooting that next target, and so I totally forgot to reload. And so I'm basically doing a standing reload here, which, if there is sort of one bright side to this, it's once the gun's loaded, I'm basically shooting flat-footed. The rest of the stage went pretty well. Yeah, you can see on this upper guy, it was 2 alpha, just barely snuck that upper one in. Over transitioned a little bit on the steel, but as you can tell, I'm shooting pretty aggressively. So the takeaways from this stage for me were just A, not forgetting the reload, and then B, just the fact that I was trying to apply this idea of sort of staying low and rolling through positions. I'm sort of that's a foreign idea that I'm trying to work into my shooting, and this was a scenario where it seemed like a good idea, but in practice, I think it didn't quite work out. But so we'll just watch the stage once more with those ideas in mind. Yeah, and it's funny because you can see I stopped my gun on the popper. It's not like I was smearing the front sight across it, which is often a temptation on a popper that's sort of isolated. I stopped it. It just stopped in slightly the wrong place, or maybe I yanked the shot low left. Something else. Yeah, this was something else I noticed as I was walking through. For some reason, and this, I mean, I have no explanation for this, but I think it's just interesting. I'm shooting the head here. For some reason, when I was walking this through, I thought that more of the hardcover on the body, or the more of the body was covered by the hardcover, but it isn't. Yeah, I mean, so this was the first stage of the day. I was the first shooter. Just first things that happen when you're the first shooter. I think I ended up taking Alpha Charlie on this guy, so not too bad, but I definitely just spent more time aiming it ahead when I could have been going for a body, which, yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? All right, no questions have come through on this one, so I'll just keep rolling through onto the next stage. Yeah, we'll watch both, I guess. Obviously, ouch. Okay, so something that's so this is actually, ironically enough, a stage that I designed, and as I was designing it, one of the things that I incorporated was you could shoot this plate rack from either of the back positions, and the idea was maybe someone in single stack major wants to split it into two positions of 6 rounds instead of 4 and 8. Whatever. It was just another option that kind of wasn't. It was easy to arrange the way the stage was constructed, and so as I'm standing there doing this flat-footed reload, I'm thinking to myself, I could shoot it. I could be moving. I could shoot it, but by the time that thought registered, it was already so late. I was like, just don't try and get greedy. Just stand here, finish it out, and just get on with the rest of the stage. Which, I mean, in retrospect, is probably the right thing to do if you don't have a backup plan. If you don't have a backup plan kind of on tap, if you haven't thought through the contingency, just fixing the problem while it's in front of you instead of trying to deal with it later and then being off in your backup plan and sort of improvising it. So it's not a freebie. Obviously, in retrospect, the right thing to do would have been to reload while I was moving and then just shoot it from this position, because it would have been available. But ultimately, it's the stupidest thing. So ultimately, what wrecked this plan was this first reload right here. So my plan was to not even try and drop the mag out of the gun. Just as I turned up range, just grab a new mag and then just turn my whole body and just move to this back right corner. Not do the reload while backing up or anything like that, which I tend to want to do. It's just my habit. If I have a choice between sort of loading then running or running then loading, if I don't make an effort to visualize something else, I'll load and then run. And in this particular scenario, I had visualized in moving. And so when I didn't do it, that then sort of took me completely out of shooting subconsciously. And I was thinking, like, why didn't I do that? That was a stupid thing to do. What is going on? Where is my stage plan? And by the time I'm sort of thinking through all these things, I'm not paying attention to my shooting, which is why I'm shooting all these mics on the steel and then, obviously doing this dumb standing reload. And it was all just this one little reload that just threw everything off the tracks. Again, that wasn't what I was supposed to do. And you can see I'm looking down at the gun. I'm like, did I even seat the mag? And so, mentally at this point, I'm just kind of on autopilot, thinking about the reload. Miss. And it's like, I don't even know why I'm standing there. I'm still just catching up. I'm like, man, what am I doing? What is going on? Where am I? And so, it just all comes crashing down. And then, after that, it's like, okay, do the reload, knock the plate down, get back to subconscious shooting, and the rest of the stage went fine. But by that time, the damage was done. So yeah, ultimately that one just all came down to that one reload and just letting it get me out of subconscious shooting. It yanked me out enough that I was thinking about the past tense. Brian might call it shooting in the past tense. I was thinking about what had already happened, even though it was done. There was nothing I could do about it. I got it on video. I can analyze it later. That's what I should have done. It's like, put it out of your mind, shoot the targets in front of you. This is a plate rack. They look easy, but obviously, you can always make mistakes on them. And so that distraction just threw me off. And so mentally, instead of thinking about the shooting in front of me, I was thinking about the past. And then when the shooting in front of me went sideways, it all came crashing down. In this one, I got the hat cam video. I just left it out just because you can kind of see all the targets from the first person video. And basically the name of the game with this one, especially in production, was aim. It was a 8-round. It was, you were shooting 8, 9, and 9, and so you didn't have a ton of makeup shots to mess around with. And obviously, you can see this middle array. You've got an open target low, which you'll see I take pretty aggressively. But then the upper guy, and then either of these, very high risk tuxedos. It's don't try and rush anything. You can't take back and no shoot. Just aim and get hits, get alphas. And it's interesting. I mean, the only thing to really point out about this one is notice on each of the arrays where I'm shooting these high risk paper shots, the splits and the transitions are basically the same, because I'm getting the same level of sight picture confirmation, whether it's returning the sight to the target it just came from, or transitioning it to a nearby one. It was, even though the splits aren't super long, because I was by this stage I was making an effort to really grip, and the sights were recovering fairly quickly. I wasn't shooting on a cadence. I wasn't shooting as soon as on a rhythm. But as soon as I saw the sight picture I needed to see on each target, which luckily was fairly quickly, I was breaking the shot. But there was no big difference between the transitions and the splits, again, because the difficulty on each one was approximately the same. Even this middle guy here, I basically just treated the available center cardboard column as an A zone, and I think I ended up getting 2 Charlies smack in the middle, which explains the 3 Charlies for the stage. The rest of pretty much the rest of the stage, I think there was barely any C zone anywhere else to shoot. But yeah, so it was, basically you can think of shooting A zone, A zone, A zone with no shoots surrounding it on the top row. And so the emphasis was just recover the sights and confirm the sight picture, let it come back down before you break the shot. Don't just shoot on some kind of cadence. And then obviously at the start, picking up the gun, just don't mess that up. But you notice I'm not trying to. A lot of guys picked up and ran to the corner because it felt like it was hard to, the window wasn't really available. But you can see I basically take one step to the side and then just step right in around the barrel, and it turned out not to be any real challenge. It was a good start position in that it added some complexity to the stage, but it wasn't as big of a deal as I feel like some people made it. Alrighty. Yeah, so still no questions, so I will keep rolling. This was that stage that I was talking about earlier, where basically the same attitude paid off on this stage that didn't pay off on the first stage of the day, where on this one I basically, until let's see, I'm trying to think, I basically only end up taking maybe 2 or 3 targets really totally flat-footed. The whole idea of this stage is there was so much room to move, and each target was available from, for the most part, a fairly wide area, that if you could just kind of stay on the move and make it so that as you move, now, not moving super fast, moving at a controlled enough pace that you got to the spot that each target was visible from and available at when you were ready to shoot it, then you didn't have to spend very much time standing still. And then the other thing about this stage that's just worth mentioning is I think it was exactly 30 rounds, and I've been trying to avoid shooting to 10, running plans where I shoot to 10, just because you have to, you just have to give up so much aggression when you can't make up more than one shot across the entire stage. So this stage plan also came out of the fact that I wanted something, basically, so the left half of the stage, you'll see what I mean in a second, but the left half of the stage is 20 rounds. The right half is 10 rounds, and I do end up shooting to 10 on that one, because I knew I would have 11. I would have a makeup round in the gun, so I could be a little bit aggressive on that section. But on this left side, I didn't want to shoot to 20 because I felt like it would force me to sort of slow down and aim too much. Whereas if you can be a little more aggressive on the target, stick an extra reload, which I end up doing in the transitions, I think it works out. And so there was a plan where you could run this left side going 1 for 1 and only do 1 reload, but I did 2 just because I thought overall it would let me be more aggressive and shoot faster, even with a little bit more downtime to do a reload during one of these movements. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Lots of interesting things to say on this one. Yeah, starting at the beginning. So yeah, the idea was basically you had to step in about 2 steps to see these mini poppers. Where are they? Mini poppers, come back. Those mini poppers, or well, really the more the leftmost one to see it tucked away. So from the start position, you could see basically. I would look at the ground for this. That's basically what you could see from the start position. So you had to step in, obviously, to start shooting, and then take another step to see that second popper. So I do that. And then from here on out, I'm just rolling through, even during the reload, just letting the targets come to me. Flat-footed, well, yeah, this is easier to see from third person. Turn down the volume a little bit. So stay rolling through the paper. Just carry the momentum, not in a hurry, just moving steadily, letting the targets come. Flat-footed for the pop for the swinger. Move to here. And then this was interesting because it was very tempting. Okay, so we're 222. So from this side, let me see if I can give you an idea from the first person. So you could see those left 2 targets basically from this window. So it was very tempting for folks to sort of come and try and set up in one spot to be able to get 3 targets, those left 2 ones with the hardcover, and then one of these through the window. Or if you got really close to the window, you could see all 4 targets. And on the one hand, that was very convenient in the sense that you basically go to one spot and you can shoot 4 targets. But walking it through, I realized that would basically be running a long distance and then posting up and shooting when especially these 2 targets on the left with the hardcover were available from a pretty wide viewing angle. And so all I had to do was basically stay inside the shooting area as I so some folks were basically running up to this corner here, so they would cut this corner outside the shooting area because it was more direct getting to the window. But just walking through, I saw, well, I can see, through the window, I can see the 2 targets that I need to see. I just have to sort of move just a little half step between them. And so if I stay back, stay inside the fault lines, get the reload done, and have the gun up, so that as soon as I'm clear of it, I can start shooting these targets. As soon have the gun up. Yeah, there you go. You can see I'm literally coming to my braking marker, and the gun is already up on the barrel, just waiting for these targets to come into view. I know they're coming. I don't even have to see them, because I know if I just get low, bring the gun up, get the sights where they're going to be, they'll come into view, and I don't have to be in a rush. I don't have to react to them. I don't have to be surprised by them. They'll just be right there. I can keep rolling through at a nice, comfortable pace, and then I'll be able to shoot them. And the only danger was overrunning the position through the red port, where that first target was that first target flanked by the no shoots, or first of the targets flanking the no shoot. And the trick there was just don't be in a rush. Don't overrun the position. It is so much easier to just wait an extra couple of tenths if you underrun a position than having to stop and reverse if you overrun a position. So first person to what I'm talking about here, obviously backing out on that guy, reload, and you can see I'm actually kind of not just running straight across the bay. I'm actually turning a little bit to my right because I am running outside the shooting area for just a couple steps, but I make sure to step back in so that I can be where I want to be. Gun up, they come into view, just roll right in, keep the gun up, same thing there. So as soon as I'm done with this target, I can see this guy through the mesh. I don't need to pull my gun in. I don't need to lose my sights. It's just a matter of just staying low, just letting my weight sort of roll through until he comes into view, and then shoot the last target. A lot of people, especially with these ones around a wall, they end up on one foot, kind of chicken legging or flamingoing or whatever you want to call it, kind of leaning out. And if you get a jam or a light strike, then you're screwed, or you drop a shot into the hardcover and you need a makeup. If you're overbalancing out of the shooting area, you're screwed. So anytime I'm in a situation like this, I always want to end up in a stable position. So if I have a jam, if I have a miss, if whatever happens, if I need to clear a malfunction or shoot another shot, I've got the time. I'm not coming in with so much so much speed that I only get 2 shots, and those, they have to be pretty quick shots too. So, but to illustrate what I'm saying, just watch my gun as I finish up with the port. Doesn't even drop down, goes straight to the cardboard area of the target, and then I just move, and as soon as it's in range or not blocked by the walls, hammer down. Easy peasy. All right, and still no questions. Next stage is just the classifier. This one, I really more than usual. I mean, these days at club match, I tend, it's kind of fun to go a little crazy on the classifier and just see what you can do. But on this one, obviously the disaster factor is just so high. I was shooting this like a stage, and in fact, normally I'll put the classifier percentage here, but my attitude going into this one was treating it like a stage in the match. I wanted the match points, and so I just tried to shoot it conservatively. I got a little bit of trigger freeze right after the reload, which you'll see, but otherwise, nothing particularly remarkable going on with here. I guess the one thing I'll say about this, I mean, this was kind of true throughout the day, but this year's hot summer match in innovation discovery is, yes, pro grip is good, pro grip works. Humidity definitely cuts into the efficacy. So you can have pro grip and your hands are dry, but if literally the air is just, if you're just picking up humidity out of the air, pro grip only goes so far, and you can only reapply so much. But take those annoying microfiber cloths that you hate because they pill on everything, and it always feels like it catches on everything. And take one of those, stick it in your range bag, take it up to the line with you. Those suckers, whatever the problems you have with them, they'll get your hands dry, like drier than a bandana, drier than a towel. They'll pull any moisture that's there out. And so actually, one thing that I learned from this setup, so this is pretty common at Sir Walter, where they will have the classifier and a speed shoot on the same bay. One thing I learned from last month was I needed something that I could carry in my pocket in between stages, because literally in the minute it took me to shoot a stage, or shoot and then walk over and make ready for the next stage, you know what I mean, in that intervening minute, I would already start to get, on a really humid day like we're having in North Carolina this summer, I'd already start to get my hands starting to sweat. The gun somehow would get damp. You would think the gun would, being with the sun on it, it would be hot, it would burn off any moisture. No, it gets damp. So kept a little microfiber cloth in my pocket and just wiped down my hands, wiped down the gun, and the pro grip could do its job. So there's your hot match pro tip for 2020. But it certainly worked here. I mean, the only issue obviously with this one was the trigger freeze, and I'm fairly sure I didn't get to see the hits on this before it got pasted. I'm fairly sure. So I know the delta was on the second shot. So the first string before the reload, it was the second shot on the left target. I'm pretty sure the 4 Charlies were, or at least 3 of the Charlies were on this right-hand target. So just really aggressively over transitioning there. The alphas would have been very helpful for a good classifier, but it was all right. But otherwise, I think it was 3 alpha, 1 delta on the left guy, and then 1 Charlie in the middle, and then 3 Charlies on the right. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, I was just indexing to the center of the available target area. Okay. Yeah, sorry, lost my pause button there. So this stage was obviously a little, as you can see, a little 8-stage. I don't know if it's definitely a short course. It may not technically be a speed because there are multiple positions, but whatever, doesn't really matter. Nobody reads the rule book. But the right hand popper here activates this left hand runner. The left hand popper activates the right hand runner. And this was actually, I mean, shooting wise, it was not, I mean, none of the targets were particularly far. So it wasn't shooting wise, it wasn't that much of a challenge. This was really more of sort of a math rules challenge. You know, how well do you understand hit factor scoring? How well do you know your own abilities? How well, you know, that kind of stuff. And I actually, if you are interested in that stuff, I did another live stream a couple days ago. It's a video about the stage and basically the math that went into it. And basically, because, you know, what you could do, since these runners were no penalty mics at the end, you could just shoot the front 4 shots, or you could shoot 6. You could shoot at either runner, or you could shoot at both, which I chose to do. Yeah, and so question in the comments: why not take the no penalty mics like single stacks / other shooters? So what I went in knowing, so we'd gotten to see somebody else shoot so I think I was like midway through the pack on this one, and I got to see somebody pretty early on, a limited M class guy, shoot just the front 4, and so he shot the front 4 shots, and I want to say he did it in like 270 something or 260 something, and so I thought, so that's 20 match points in was it 2 no's? Either way, I saw his time on the front 4. Sorry, I'm losing my own numbers doing that live stream. There were so many numbers floating around that I actually lost track of it. Actually, here's what I can do. I can pull up practice score for the match and just look at it, make sure I'm not talking bad numbers about this. Limited. So this was stage 4. No, this was stage 4. Yeah, 267. So he shot at 4 alphas in 267. And I basically thought to myself, well, if I can get twice as many points in less than twice as much time. So basically, if I can get the other 2 runners in 2 seconds or less, 2.5 seconds or less, then it'll probably be worth it. And now if it had been something where he could draw and get all 4 of the shots up front in under 2 seconds, I don't know that I would have gone for it. But in this particular scenario, I sort of had that one data point to go on, that, okay, to get the front 4, it's about 2.7 seconds. And I thought, I'm going to go for the runners. I think that they can, I think that I'll be able to shoot them faster than that. Of course, as it happened, it really wasn't a matter of skill. It was just a matter of timing. And so I just had to make a call based on the limited information. And I thought, generally speaking, my rule of thumb is, unless I know the movers aren't worth shooting, I default to shooting no penalty mics, just as a rule. I've had enough stages where I try and play it safe, and it turns out that you could actually make it, you know, that it didn't take as long as it seemed. Once you're on the timer, the disappearing targets came out faster than it seemed. That my rule is, I sort of put the burden of proof on skipping a disappearing target, and so I just decided to go for it. And you can kind of see the outcome of that math as it happened. I mean, I think it was a fine strategy as it happened. Shooting a delta on one of the movers really hurt. I mean, that was basically 4 of the 40 points available on the stage gone. If it had been Alpha Charlie on both runners, I would have basically had the same hit factor as the guy that shot the front 4 in 276 or 267. And if I'd gotten all alphas, it would have actually been significantly better. It would have been an 8.0 hit factor instead of a 7.5 hit factor, I think. So basically, I mean, you know, I talked about this for like 30 minutes if you want the details of all the math, but the idea was it still worked out to be the highest hit factor possible was still by shooting all 8 shots. But it was definitely a narrow thing. And so I just made the call based on the limited information I had, and I think it worked out. So this is second to last stage of the day. This is on the biggest bay that Sir Walter has, and it was definitely getting hot. The heat was definitely. I mean, you can actually see on my arm hair touching. I'm starting to get a little crispy. I mean, I put on sunscreen, but still, it's been a long day. Didn't end up getting burned too bad, but I was definitely, it was getting warm out, and so it was the forced march part of the day had kind of come into action for me. But the stage actually went fairly well. But I guess I'll run it and then talk about it. All right. So a couple things about this one. It was pretty straightforward. I made a couple of choices that might be worth talking about. One that I think it definitely is at least worked out for me is from this front position, you could see a lot of targets. Now, I believe standing on either side, you could see at least like 13 rounds if you wanted to take them. More than you had in a production gun. But the upshot of it was there were basically 18 rounds that you could see from these front 2 positions. And fortunately, as a shooter, the stage was constructed roughly symmetrically, and so you had basically on each side you had a mirror image of what was available, and so it made it easier as a shooter to come up with a plan and remember it, because it was basically the same plan just in reverse on either side. And I ended up running a plan where I basically shot 9 shots from each side, and I saw some folks that higher cap, either limited or carry optics, that shot something like 13 and 5, or some others split 11 and what would that be, 7, 11 and 7. But I think the way this worked out, so the rule of thumb, or the way I remembered my target order, is on each side. So on the left side, I was shooting all of the targets that were to the left. That were to the left of their hardcover, or to the left of whatever was obscuring them. So in the case of this guy, target to the left, popper. Shot that open popper. It was just part of the order. And then, for example, here, like this is where back it up just a second. Like this array with these 2 targets, if you got impatient or you just wanted to shoot what was right in front of you, it was easy to, just go ahead and shoot this guy. But then you had to remember who you had and hadn't shot from the other side. Whereas by taking this plan, I'm actually skipping this target that's partialed by the no-shoot, because it doesn't follow this rule of being just to the left of the vision barrier obscuring it. And so left on this guy, left on this guy, my next target, left on this guy. Again, this wall was sort of my marker, so left and then left. Bit of a stretch, but it worked. And then there was a popper. I don't know if you can quite see it in this view. There was a popper that you could lean around for, but I left that for the other side because I knew I'd be transitioning right past him. So on this side, this corner, it's 8 shots on paper, 1 on steel, 9 rounds, gives me a few makeups, end up taking a makeup shot on this guy, and then move across, and then the opposite. So from the right-hand corner, I'm shooting each of the targets to the right of their piece of vision barrier or obscuring cover. So right, popper, and then here again, I skip this guy because he's, at least in this sort of mental schema, my little mnemonic memory device, he's to the left of this black barrel. So this guy's to the right, this guy's to the right, and that guy's to the right. It worked out. I think even if I'd had a higher cap gun, I think still, I mean, unless you're going, there was no way to shoot all 18 shots from one position. You had to split it up into 2 positions. And so in that scenario, I think it still makes sense to break it up into 2 symmetrical positions instead of, for some reason, trying to, shoot more at the first position than the second one, because it might, it's easier in the first one. You shoot everything you see, but then at the second one, you have to remember what you've already shot. Whereas if you have sort of the same rule that you apply in both places, that seemed like it worked out to me. But then again, maybe position 1, shoot everything you see. Position 2, skip targets, 3 and 7 or whatever. Maybe that's easier. Like I said, for production, I had to run it in some 9 and 9 split, and so I was actually quite happy with that one. How that worked out. It was very simple, easy to remember, and worked out. Now, the back half of the stage here, it was, let's see, I think it's probably easier to see in third person. So basically, coming the back half of the stage, you had 4 rounds all the way on the right side, and then you had a mirror reverse of this array all the way on the left side. And then through the opening in the barrels, you had 6 rounds. And so sort of the most obvious way to break this down that I think a lot of people went for was come around the corner, shoot 4 rounds on this target, and then, or this array, and then post up somewhere where you can shoot through the barrels and these targets on the left. And going back to kind of what I was saying about trying to avoid shooting to 10 where I can, especially on high risk targets like this, or, as you saw through the barrel, there were 2 poppers. I did end up needing a makeup shot. I thought, okay, let's break it up. Instead of being 10 and 4, let's make it 8 and 6. All right. So once we've done that, what does that kind of earn me? Well, it's actually, at that point, the first 2, as you're on the right side of the range coming up from the front right corner, they're not that far away, and if you get on them early while they're still fairly close, you can see I'm actually, well, I'll talk about that in a second. If you get on them early and then shoot them, there's enough shooting area to shoot them backing straight up, which is always the easiest the easiest way to shoot on the move is either straight back or straight forward, just the way your body mechanics work. So I shoot them straight back, pretty confident. It's only about a 10-yard, maybe 10-yard shot on each of them. So shoot those backing up, and then again, by sort of the same token of shooting on the move, if you just stay low, by the time you get to the back of the shooting area, pivot over, and the next the other mirror array will be visible. And so what you can see here is I've got the gun reloaded, and then I'm actually looking at the spot where I want to run to, where I know these guys are going to be visible, so that I can have the move to that, have the gun up and ready, and then as soon as they come around the barrel, I know I'm in the 180, and I can start shooting them while backing up. See, backing straight away, and then just pivot, carry a little, 1 or 2 other steps over, and then just step into the middle and finish. And I think that it looked risky. I think it looked riskier than it is, frankly. But because the shooting the targets with the no-shoots right up against the A zone, it's a good arrow to have in your quiver, certainly. And it let me sort of stay moving. I didn't have to really post up hard anywhere in this back section, and I was able to split the array in a way that I had plenty of makeup rounds on either array. So you can see basically in the time it takes to pull the gun in and transition 180, I can kind of give one hard push, and then have the other targets in range or in sight, and then just reload and finish. Yeah, it's funny. You can tell I'm definitely slacking on my grip, shooting these targets, which, if anything, you'd want. I mean, that looks fine. That grip looks fine. But you can see the gun is just jumping all over the place because it's right in front of the camera. But still, area to work on. All right, and then so this last stage, I guess there's not really too much to say about this before just running it through. So yeah, a couple things at play here. So there were two main plans. So you can see the start position. They're actually this set of X's right here at the lower right of the frame. So it's, starting toes on X's. And you basically had to come to this spot where I'm standing to be able to see the tuxedo to the left and both of the poppers to the right. And there were, I think, the most common, most straightforward plan in the sense of, get to the shooting the soonest, was to move in, shoot the two poppers to the right. Switch to the first person to show what I'm talking about. Shoot the two poppers, they're to the right, and then this was an open target, but obviously it was hard covered a little bit by the actual physical barrel, and then this tuxedo, and you could kind of see this guy with the slash hardcover, but just walking it through, I don't know, just making a call in the moment, it seemed like you would have to shuffle around to get a really good view of both the poppers and him. You'd either have to go pretty far forward into the shooting area, which you'd then have to back out of, or you'd have to sort of shoot him moving directly to the side, or actually, if anything, moving sort of the side and a little bit up range. So it was going to be kind of an awkward shooting on the move situation. Or you, like I said, you just had to take a little shuffle step. So I didn't like any of those three options. And in my mind, I thought, well, I'm going to have to move all the way to the corner and back anyway. And the one kind of cool thing about this plan is it really kind of saved me having to move up range very much. So I basically start at the back, I move all the way to the left, and then I move a little bit down range, and then I'm basically moving straight across again. And so there was no kind of looking over my shoulder. Now, it was only a couple of steps to clear this wall, but still, it was, when you can shave any kind of uprange movement out of a plan, it's always easier to move to somewhere you can see, and having to sort of turn your head and look over your shoulder to move uprange, even a little bit. If you can avoid it, that's not a bad thing. And then, the other thing was just walking through. I felt pretty confident about what I talked about earlier, about just kind of get low, move smoothly, get your gun up through the mesh, and just let the target come to you. And so on this slash hardcover guy, moving straight towards him. Yeah, so you can see I literally have my sights through the mesh. Oh, VLC, you won't let me. Yeah, so I could be shooting now. I am aimed at the A zone, but I'm just waiting until the PVC breaks, or my gun breaks the PVC, and then the target's available. That just struck me as an easier shot than any of the other options. And again, the other nice thing is this made it a position of, it made the first two positions 6 and 6, plenty of makeup rounds, versus making it 8 and 4. So not a huge difference. 6 and 6 versus 8 and 4, I wouldn't say is something to, if there's, it's a pretty minor factor. If you like the plan for some other reason, I wouldn't switch just to make it 6 and 6 instead of 8 and 4. Now, 8 and 8 instead of 6 and 10 on 2 separate mags, that's a little bit more persuasive. Shooting to 10, you should be able to do it, but if you don't have to, if you can ever eliminate it from the stage plan, I like to. So, yeah, it was just a bit of a judgment call at the time, and it felt good just to kind of run and then just work the whole stage left to right, and not have to sort of be backtracking both up and down range and sort of literally. I mean, I guess I am backtracking, so whatever. But you start the stage all the way at the left, and then you just work left to right. And then the other thing that I would change if I were shooting this again, this window prop is, I think, really cool. It's been around at the club, gosh, for as long as I've been there. So it's at least 7 years old. We used it at a NC State match, I think back in 2013, 2014, something like that. So it's been around, very reliable. The mechanism is rock solid. And the cool thing is, when it slams down at the bottom, that piece of 3/4 ply that's moving out of the way, it'll activate whatever you want it to activate. And it moves pretty quick. And so in retrospect, I think hitting that button, shooting the targets on the left, and then coming back to the window was, I wouldn't do that. In fact, I counseled someone else on the squad just to open the window. It's going to be open, and the plate swinger is going to be moving. By the time if your gun is sufficiently away from the window and the button, so you're not going to sweep yourself, by the time you get your grip back, that window is going to be open. So just shoot through the window, and then if you need to pivot back, take a little half step back to shoot the no shoot. Or what I told him, and what I would have done here, is basically hit the button, and then as you're reestablishing your grip, just take a little half step back, and then you've got a nice, stable, wide stance where you can see what you need to see through the window, but also see the targets off to your right. Because, let's see, yeah. So you can't quite see it from the first person, but there's just an open paper target here. And so you didn't need to be super deep in the window because everything was in a fairly narrow slice. I mean, you can see I've got a pretty commanding view of everything downrange. I could easily be one step further back and still see everything I needed to see through this window. So that's the one thing I would do differently if I had this to run again. But overall, I think through the magic of practice score, I got to go first, which is typical. I go first on the first stage almost every match I go to. But because we were dropping 2 every stage, I ended up going second on this stage. So I kind of had to come up with or not come up with a plan. I'd seen the stage, so I had a plan, but just really finalize the details in a hurry because I was second on the last stage of the day in addition to being first on the first one. But whatever, them's the breaks. So back this one up, give it another watch. And I will admit, I was kind of, I got a little lucky with, I was definitely pushing the limit, especially on that first plate as it was swinging away. I'm basically shooting right over the barrel. Ooh, yeah, like I got it right as it was going away at the height of the swing. But, it was just decided to send it, and it worked. So yeah, that's one of those. I think if I were to run it again, I'd have a better plan on the window, but I probably wouldn't get quite as lucky on the swinger with just being able to transition straight to it. Maybe I would, I don't know, but I wouldn't get quite as lucky on the swinger, so that would probably wash out. This was, I believe, aside from the classifier, this was actually the only stage in combined production and single stack, which Practice Score Competitor lets you do just for fun. I think it's always interesting to combine the low cap divisions if there's enough heat. I mean, there was I think there were two production Gs, two production Gs and a master maybe, and then a single stack master and a single stack G. So you group them together and you've got a good little mix of high hit factors. And I actually did not win most of the stages. I was happy to chunk away 95, 99, most of the stages 90, 92s pushing it. Obviously, this one with the standing reload was an 81. That kind of dogged me. That was that one, and then this one with the mic and the basically standing reload were my two worst stages of the day. But other than that, actually just kind of chunking away, 95% of points. Is that one really 95 as well? That might be. I think I might have missed something in the captions there. Let's open up practice score competitor here. Combined. Single stack production combined. Huh, yeah, look at that. Stage 4 and Stage 5, I was both 95%. And, yeah, I mean, Stage 4, 8 rounds, 40 match points, not that big of a deal. But, on a stage like this, on a big 32-rounder like this, coming in 95% honestly is fine. You do not need to win stages like this to do well in the match. And, not like this is I'm not like trying to do a victory lap. I mean, so I ended up of this combined low cap, there was me, Beaker at 99.6%, another single stack GM at 99%. So we were all, I mean, a couple Charlies either way would have swung the match. So it was pretty cool to have, three guys all shooting within basically 99% of each other, within 1% of each other. But that's the thing. I only won. So my only stage win. So I won the classifier, which was 12 shots, so 60 match points, and then I had this win on this other one, which was only 20 rounds. So again, only 100 match points. But you chunk away 95%, 90. Ooh, stage 3. Yeah. So I actually didn't win stage 3, but I came in 98.75. So I rounded that up to 99 here. So, it wasn't a stage win, but I got 98.75% of the match points for the stage. So it kind of helps to keep you in the running. So only reason to sort of have this diversion is just to point out the fact that you don't actually need to go for stage wins, especially on big stages, 32 rounders. You don't need to go for stage wins on long matches. This is why nationals having more stages, I think, matters. You don't have to go for broke and try and hit it out of the park. If you can just notch up 95% of the stage win on most stages, then you'll probably come out fine, because the guys who are swinging for the fences and getting the stage wins are probably going to fall apart and have a 40% stage to counter it. And you're, mathematically, it doesn't take a lot to figure out. It's better to have two 95s than 100 and a 40. Like the 295s add up to a lot more. So that's the idea. That's all I got to say about this. A couple people on the live stream. Any questions? Anything you want to talk about for this match, or general philosophy or anything? Happy to talk things through as long as I'm here, as long as I've got the stream going. If I've answered every question and resolved every issue, then that's good enough. We can call it a day. All right, y'all. Well, this seems like it was a little more successful. Definitely the biggest turnout. Tried to schedule this a little bit further in advance, so folks had some warning about when it was happening. If you have any thoughts, podcast@barryshooting.com. Shoot me an email. Let me know if the audio sucked, or you want to think it's good, or there was something I didn't cover, or whatever. Send me an email. Happy to help. Thanks, y'all. Have a good evening.